I'm Jacinta. Made the move from Georgia to Arizona sight unseen a little over a year ago. I moved April 1st of 2025. I had never been to the state of Arizona before, didn't know anybody, didn't have any friends, didn't have any family, nothing. I literally just followed the breadcrumbs and they led me here. And this is really just insight into my journey. Definitely want to answer some of you guys' questions. So today we're just going to do a little quick Q&A. Hello, hello, hello. So today I am doing a video of the Q&A of me moving from Georgia to Arizona sight unseen. I know a lot of y'all had a lot of questions, but there were some questions that people just kept asking that I really wanted to answer really in detail and give, my full insight on them. Major touch points that I felt like really helped shape my move and just really put the information out there for people who are thinking about making a move such as this, whether it be Arizona or moving anywhere else. So I'm gonna be doing a little crocheting while I'm answering y'all's questions. But first things first, why did I choose Arizona? And I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like I said, I am very much so a follow the breadcrumbs type of person. So basically, Arizona had hit my sights when a good friend of mine at the time had told me randomly one day, she's like, I'm moving to Arizona. Now, I've always wanted to move out of Georgia, but I never knew where I wanted to move to. I did try moving to Florida a couple years back. I was gone all of 3 months, and then I came back home. So outside of Florida, I didn't really know where else I wanted to move to. So when she brought it up, I was like, okay, cool. I was like, maybe that's something that I can explore. I asked her, what made you choose Arizona, whatever the case may be. She gave me all her reasons. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I know I do want to move one day. I'm just not sure when, but I'll keep that in the back of my mind because it does sound pretty dope to live over there. Fast forward to probably a couple months after having that conversation, I would say maybe almost a year after having that conversation, I found myself in a situation where I had to move. Like, I had some stuff going on. Actually, I was honestly facing eviction. I had to sell my car, all this other stuff. Like, I was just going through a really rough patch, and I found myself in a spot where I just had to move. So I was like, I'm gonna move. I didn't know where else I was going to move to. And then something in the back of my mind was like, let's just move to Arizona. Now, y'all, I had no idea how I was going to make that move happen. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how it was going to happen. But again, following the breadcrumbs, because it's so funny, after I made the decision to move to Arizona, everything really fell into place for me to make this move happen. I wouldn't necessarily say I picked Phoenix. I think Phoenix picked me. Um, just because I just feel like that's really just kind of how life works. Like, we don't really pick stuff, it really pick us, but then, like, we be made to believe that we picked it, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's how I picked Arizona. How much money did I have saved up when I moved here? Y'all, I had no money saved up when I moved. Honestly and truly, I had like no money saved up. So basically, what happened was at the time, once I got hit with my eviction papers, I was not working a regular 9 to 5 job. I had left my job because I was really just burnt out. I was tired. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I had left my job a few months prior to that. The decision to move to Arizona came in January of 2025. I had left my job in July of 2024. When I left my job, I had close to 10 bands saved up. Um, Burned through all of that money, that burned through all of it just from paying bills, living, all that other stuff. So by the time January came around, I had nothing saved up, which was why I was facing eviction, because I had no money saved up. Y'all, when I say instantly, like, the minute I decided I was moving to Arizona, I had walked in the Dollar General, and on like a Thursday or a Friday, I was working at the Dollar General like the following week. Like, not, oh, let's do your onboarding or anything like that. Like, I started like the following week. So, and I was only making $10 to $11 an hour. So yeah, when I literally say I didn't have any money saved up, I had no money saved up. So I realistically cannot tell anybody how much money they need to save up when they move. Like, I ended up being able to move because I had applied for rental assistance. I told the lady I only needed 3 months. She approved me for 5 months. So those additional 2 months, because by the time I got my rental assistance, it was enough to pay for January, February, and March. By the time I got my rental assistance, all 3 months are paid, and then I had 2 additional months, and I used those monies to help pay for my rent once I got over here, as well as like my initial moving fees. The money that I made from working the job, that did the little stuff like buy my plane tickets, send boxes and stuff over here. Like, that's what that money did. So sis did not have any money saved up when I moved. Like, nothing, zero. I had nothing saved. So I don't know how much to tell you to save, because I've also moved to another state before. When I told y'all I moved to Florida, I had close to $15,000 saved up. That didn't work out either. So I honestly cannot tell you how much money to save up. You know what type of lifestyle you got to live. You know what it is that you're trying to do. You make sure that you look at stuff like cost of living and all that other stuff before you move, and you do that, because yeah, I didn't have no money saved up at all. No bullshit. No money saved. Did I have any a job and stuff lined up in my apartment and stuff lined up before I moved here? Yes, actually I did. Now, in terms of the job market, y'all, I can't speak for everybody. I don't know what y'all jobs are. I'm a licensed insurance professional. So, I mean, there's no such thing as job security, but I do strongly feel like when you work in insurance, baby, you can get a job anywhere. That's exactly what I did. So once I made the decision to move, I was like, okay, well, you're gonna need a job, because you got to be able to get an apartment and all that other stuff. Like, you got to be able to do the things that you need to do. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go back to a job. So I sat down and I knew what my skills were. Like I said, I'm a licensed professional. So I looked up all of the jobs that I could do with the license that I had, which was nothing. I mean, I was a claims adjuster. So, it was nothing to find a job as a claims adjuster. I did interview with a couple of places, but there was only one place that was willing to interview me without me not being in the state already. They did a virtual interview, and I let them know at the beginning, hey, I live in Georgia. So when it came time for the interview, they immediately started the interview off with, hey, we're not helping with any type of relocation assistance. Are you going to be able to relocate on your own? I went on ahead and let them know yes. They went on ahead and went through with the process and everything, and I got hired. So that is what I did in terms of a job. Check job boards. I looked on Indeed. For the particular job that I got, though, I knew that company, I had been told about this company, that they were a good place to work. So I went on ahead and decided to just go ahead and go to their website directly to find a job. And they actually had jobs and openings available. So I did go ahead and apply on their website. Once I had my job, that's when I found my apartment, because I was able to say, hey, this is the amount of money that I'm going to be making. Also, I knew where I was going to be staying, where my job was at that point, which would allow me to get somewhere to stay. So that's how I found my apartment. I went on apartments.com. I used all those little apps. I would definitely say, make sure that you are doing like Google searches and everything in terms of, okay, what's the distance from my job to my apartment? Okay, from my apartment to here, like, check to see if there are going to be any restaurants or stores nearby. I checked for those as well. But that was how I found my apartment. Basically, I made sure it was somewhere close to my job, and my apartment. Looking up for me, I can actually see my job from my apartment. So I was able to go ahead and do that. And then where I'm staying at, there are grocery stores nearby, there's shopping centers, restaurants, different things like that. So I was actually in a very good spot. But that would be the way that I would say, just go about looking for everything. Base everything off of your job first. Like, that would be my biggest thing, is especially if you're moving somewhere where you don't have a vehicle, or you're looking for transportation, or you're going to need transportation. Definitely, I would say look for the places that are going to be closest to your job, because you know that's the one place that you're going to have to go every day. So once you get that out the way, then it should be fairly easy or fairly simple to find somewhere to stay. Also, look up how much Lyft and Uber rides are going to cost too, because again, moving here, I didn't have a vehicle when I first got here. So you also want to see how much those rides are going to cost you and what that's going to look like at any given time of the day. Lyft and Uber rides are definitely more expensive in Arizona. So I for sure wanted to make sure that I was somewhere closer to my job more than anything else, because I knew I could get wherever else I needed to go. But work was the one place that I needed to go basically every day of the week. So that is how I found my apartment and my job. Really just a quick little search using the skills that I already had to find where I wanted to work, and then from there leverage that to figure out where I wanted to live. How did I get all my stuff over here? The answer, I did not. I actually sold all of my stuff. I sold between selling and giving away stuff. I did not bring too much of anything with me. Initially, when I first was like I was gonna move, I was like, hell yeah, I'm moving all my stuff, because I had just recently, well, not too long ago, moved into my apartment that I was in Georgia. So, and this was my first apartment back on my own since falling on hard times, life doing what it's doing. So everything that I had bought for that apartment was brand new. I had bought a brand new sofa, brand new furniture, just basically everything was brand new in that apartment. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take my stuff with me. So I started calling around the moving companies. Y'all, these moving companies was talking about $2,000 minimum. Like, they was like, it don't matter how much stuff you move in, it's going to cost about $2,000, because we have a minimum fee, there's a minimum amount, and da 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 da, and this and the third. So they quoted me about $2,000. I wasn't paying that. As I've already told y'all, I didn't have the money to pay that to begin with. Okay. I didn't have that. So I was like, okay, well, we're not going to be shipping our stuff. So I was like, okay, well, next, let's just get a U-Haul. I wasn't with the driving stuff, because from Georgia to Arizona, it's over a 24-hour drive. I wasn't really with driving, but at the time I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure if me and my daddy can do it, we'll knock it out. Like, I knew it was gonna be somebody that was gonna help me. Knew it was gonna be somebody who was gonna help me. Turns out I didn't have nobody to help me, but whatever. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just get a U-Haul then. Like, U-Haul won't be that bad. Now, getting a U-Haul was actually cheaper. Like, on paper, getting a U-Haul was cheaper. But then when I started considering the fact that, okay, this is going to be over a 24-hour drive in a U-Haul truck. So who's going to make that trip all the way through? Nobody. At least I knew I had no plans on making the trip all the way through. So I was like, that's hotel rooms. Then you got to think about gas. You got to eat on the way and all that other stuff. So then I was like, okay, well, we're not going to do a U-Haul. So then I was like, okay, what about renting a car? Renting a car was, I ain't gonna say it was the same price, but it was still, you still had to think about the same things. And then it was gonna be even smaller space. So I was still gonna have to get rid of stuff either way it went. So I was like, okay, well, we're not going to drive over there. We're not going to drive a U-Haul or a rental vehicle. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to have to get rid of my stuff. So shortly after making that decision and, knowing that I had a job and stuff, I went on ahead and started listing my stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I started reaching out to people that I knew, because like at the time I had a t-shirt. I used to have a t-shirt and customs business. So like I had all of my stuff that I had to get rid of, t-shirts and stuff like that. I gave some of the stuff away. A lot of my machines and stuff I sold to somebody as a bundle. So like my Cricut machine, all that other stuff, I sold them as a bundle. But everything else, like, I just listed on Facebook Marketplace. I actually had one girl come in one day to buy stuff, and she was like, why are you selling everything? And I told her, I was like, I'm moving out of state. I can't take nothing with me. She was like, well, is it okay if I come in and look around and just see what you got? I was like, yeah. She saw some of the stuff I had. She was like, oh, you finna make some money off of me. She ended up buying a lot of stuff that I didn't even get a chance to post. I ended up selling my couch to my brother. Like, so I ended up just selling and giving away everything. And then what I ultimately did was everything that I kept, which was like a couple of outfits and stuff like that. Everything that I kept, I put in suitcases, as well as I shipped an initial box over here. Shipping that box was like $130. So if you're thinking about shipping stuff, definitely keep that in mind. But the box was like $130. Like I said, I stuffed everything in suitcases, and at the time, because I did do a Southwest flight over here at the time, this is when Southwest was still doing bags fly for free. So my bags flew for free. I was probably like one of the last people that got that. So my bags flew for free. I shipped that one box for $130, and then anything else that I couldn't fit, I did end up getting a storage unit, but I've since cleaned that out. And my mama sent a couple of things to me and stuff like that. But yeah, like I just came over here and started all the way over. I started with new furniture and everything. The clothes that I brought over here were really just little things. So I did still end up having to buy clothes when I got over here as well, especially for me to be able to go to work and stuff in. Like, yeah, so that would be my suggestion, honestly, and definitely if you're working on a budget, because it's going to be so much harder for you to try to ship stuff over here and all that other stuff. Now, I mean, if you got it, cool, that's great, love that for you, but I don't. In terms of a vehicle, I actually bought my car when I got over here. I had to sell my car a couple months prior because it started breaking down. So I was like, I'm just gonna sell it. So I didn't have a vehicle or anything like that I had to worry about shipping at all. That would probably be the one thing that I would say invest money into shipping, especially if it's a good car, whatever the case may be. But if you can, I would say just get all new stuff when you moved over here. That's exactly what I did. No regrets. I will say I probably haven't bought as much stuff as I would like, but yet and still, I did buy all new stuff once I moved. There was no shipping nothing, because for a minimum of 2 bands, nah, fam, no, couldn't do it. So yeah. Question is, how do you get over the fear and the nerves of moving? And honestly, you don't get over those fear and those nerves. I can honestly say, even after a year and some change of being here, that I still get afraid. I still get nervous. I still ask myself if this was the best move for me. Like, you really just got to go out there and do it. There's never going to be a right time to do anything. There's never going to be a right time to decide you're going to up and leave where your comfort zone. There's never going to be a right time to say, hey, I'm going to move somewhere new. Like, there's never a good time to do any of it. You just got to get out there and do it. One thing that I will say that has helped a lot is, definitely do as much research as you possibly can. Of course, it's not the same as being there, but definitely just do that research. That way you could be just a little bit familiar with the area that you're planning on going to or that you're moving to. I don't know, if you're into it, pray a lot. Like, I pray, I journal a whole lot. I don't have my journal with me right now, but like, I journal a whole lot. I journaled a lot before this process. I did a lot of meditating. I did a lot of praying. Like, but there's never a good time. Everybody's just says they're so afraid. Are you afraid to fail in your hometown? Or like, you could be afraid to fail in your hometown, or you could go somewhere else and fail. At least if you went somewhere else and fail, you could say you tried. Like, but just do it. You just literally got to get out there and do it. It's no other way around it. Like, I wish I could tell you there was some other way to figure it out, but it's not. Like, you just have to do it. There's no way of getting over it. Yeah, it's just, you just got to do it, honey. You just got to do it. Okay? You just got to do it. So I hope that I have answered y'all's questions. I'm pretty sure there are some questions that I missed. Definitely don't forget to leave them in the comments below. I would be more than happy to do another Q&A of some other questions that y'all may have. I actually like these little yap sessions. I think they're cool because I'm actually a yapper. So yeah, just leave any other comments or questions that y'all have in the comment section, and I will definitely get back to you on them. But until next time.